Has the magic of comic books faded for you over the years? Guys, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content and you like me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, and you've been watching for a while, I think you came to the right place. So why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button? Yeah, that's right, guys. I thought this would be an interesting topic video to discuss. And if you want a shout out each week, why don't you leave comments down below on future topics that you want me to discuss? This was one that I came up with because I know there's a lot of people out there that might be a little bit older like me that have read comic books for a long time, and they've gotten maybe a little bit jaded, or they'll say that comics are not the same as what they once were. And I want to know, obviously, what has turned you off of comics over the years, or if you still read them but you don't enjoy a lot of them like you once did. For instance, a lot of folks are not as much into Marvel or DC comics anymore because of maybe the quality of writing, or maybe the stories have been done so many times that they don't know what to write, okay? So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. Now, I'll give you an example for myself, okay? One thing that I do miss about comic books, and this is something that was really good about comics a long time ago, was obviously that great cliffhanger at the end of a comic book, which we still have today, right? But the issue that we have is that we have preview books, we have solicitations, and we have these big news articles, and sometimes things get posted on the news. And what happens is you have a big cliffhanger or a death or something big that's going to happen in a mainstream comic book. And then what happens is that gets spoiled for you before the book even comes out. And, you know, I feel that it's always fair game once a comic book comes out because, you know, the book is already out and people like to discuss the things that happen, right? But before the book even comes out is frustrating. It's like, for instance, I am currently reading the new Venom title right now. And what has done a 360 for me is the way Al Ewing is writing this book. And the good thing about it is that it is a mystery book. You don't know who the new Venom is, and you as a reader are trying to do the detective work to figure out what's going on in the book, right? And to find out who this Venom is. And same with Dylan, right? And so far, nobody knows, or nobody has spoiled that important part of the book. And that's what makes it so intriguing. That's what makes it a better book. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to, you know, spoiling certain plot points before a title even comes out. They do that a lot in the mainstream books, right? When it comes to the independent books, I feel like those books tend to be better. One, because the stories are original, the characters are original. Two, in the indie scene, they don't seem to spoil the stuff as much, right? So when you're reading it, you're like, holy cow, you're like, that is freaking awesome what happens, and you're left with a great cliffhanger, and then you can't wait to dive into that next issue. So for instance, hopefully you guys read Transformers. I'm not going to spoil it, but something big happens at the end of Transformers in this particular comic book week. If this was a Marvel book or a DC book, I wouldn't be surprised if they spoil what happens at the end of that comic book. One thing that a lot of people will all agree with me on is I think it's the price of comic books, okay? The price of comic books have gotten very expensive. We're at the $3.99 price point for the most part on every single comic, the least. You do get your occasional, you know, title like Spawn, right? But that's really it. That hits that $2.99 mark nowadays. Mostly every single comic book is minimum $4.99, and then you got $5.99. And then you got your foil covers, you got your variant covers, you got your 1 in 10s, your 1 in 25s, your 1 in 50s. So when people have a budget, they literally can only buy so many of these comic books. And what it does is it hurts the industry because you can't try out some of these stories that are out there, right? And so that's another frustrating thing is, again, it's the price of comic books. You just don't have that disposable income that you maybe once had, like when comics were like $1 or even $2, right? I mean, I started reading comics regularly when they were like 75 cents to $1, okay? So that's another thing that's turned me off, is the price over the years. I get it, there's inflation, but when we raise the price, why do we always got to raise it by a freaking dollar? That is so frustrating in my eyes. One big thing also that has lost its punch over the years is the events. And I think a lot of you would agree with me when it comes to events in comic books. There's a lot of them. Where at one point, there used to be one event a year, if that. And when the event happened, it was a big thing. There was huge ramifications. It affected the entire universe. Characters changed. Nowadays, it's like we need to have an event for the sake of an event. Nothing changes. There's no ramifications, right? And so people try it, they get frustrated, it affects the entire line, it affects the progress of their favorite characters, their favorite comic books, and then people just drop off of a comic. So that's the frustration with events. Now, we currently have a brand new one that started, which I feel like has been slowly leading up to this point. Will it finally deliver? I'm not sure, right? But I think we need to tone down these events, maybe have an event once a year. That's it. We don't need multiple events in all your favorite comic books. Just tell good stories. You can make them into story arcs if you wanted to, but just don't kind of make it like a gimmick, right? And I think that's where a lot of frustration sets in for a lot of readers. Now, some will say that comic books are not the same as they were yesterday. I think every generation actually goes through this situation, okay? When I was 15, 16 years old, I can honestly say some of the best comic books I read was in that time period, because the first time ever I was really introduced to comic books. I really appreciated the artwork. I really liked the storytelling, right? And so I could say that that was my best time period because it was new, it was fresh. I didn't read everything, right? And so there's that argument there. But I think it's a generational thing. I think whenever you're introduced to comic books for that first time and you're new and you're fresh into the hobby, you're probably going to like a lot of stuff before it starts to wear down or you read the same story. So I kind of don't hold that against comic books because, again, if you read comic books for 50 years, they're not always going to gear towards you. It's going to gear towards a newer audience, okay? And that's, again, especially with the big two. When it comes to the independent books, I think if you're an older reader, I think that's the way to go these days because those stories are new. Those stories are fresh. They got different characters. The creators can do their own thing with editorial, and I just think it's a much better route to go. And that's one of the things, again, that I think Marvel and DC suffers from is editorial. And they have these editorial mandates. I think they have to write certain stories the way they're told, and you can't tell those new and creative character directions, right? So yeah, those are just some of the things that bother me when it comes to comic books. However, comic books will always be in my heart. I always will have this great passion for them. And even though some of them may not be written the way I liked them back in the past, I'm still optimistic. I still love the medium, whether it's good or bad. I still find it entertaining, and I love sharing it with you. So I want to know now in those comments below, are you still into comic books? Is there something there that you wish that was better today than it was yesterday? Just let me know all those thoughts in the comments below. And until then, guys, There's more content always right here for you to click on. And support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always remember, read your comics so we can have great comic conversation. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, if you have a topic that you want me to cover next week, let me know in the comments section below, and I will shout you out. Guys, thank you so much. I'll see you real soon. Bye.